Hi, Henrik Knudsen here. I would like to introduce my second screencast for teaching on the 29th of September. And the main agenda is to clarify the concept of business models. The literature that we're based upon is one from Lindgren, who's at AU Herning, and Ole Rasmussen concerning the business model cube. And the second one is a link to Alex Osterwalder that has the business model canvas. I'll start by explaining the business model canvas in this link, and then we'll move on to the second one, which is the business model cube. What I intend to accomplish is that first of all, to clarify the concept of business models. What is the understanding, what are the basics, and what is it that you should note when we're discussing business models? Giving you the option of being able to choose between different business models, and then secondly, I would like to make a link from business models to business plans. And the reason is that in your in the curriculum for your examination, it states, I'll just read it shortly. If you look at it under form of examination, is an oral exam based on a written group assignment including a business development plan. This we have here described in the course catalogue for international business. And as we read here, students will be evaluated on their ability to present the written business development plan in a cohesive and critical reflective form, where especially the analytical findings and consequences of the analysis are in focus. So basically what we want to address up front is, what is a written business development plan? And then later on being able to address the latter issue. So that was linked to from the business models to the business plans, and from business plans to business development plans. And finally, I would like to pave the way so when we meet, we'll be able to more easily be able to apply business model canvas and business model cube. Business model canvas is the business model proposed by Osterwalder, and business model cube is a model proposed by Lindgren. Okay, let's move on. The previous screencast had two questions, and one was why organizations existed. And there's a general agreement that organizations have one specific role, and this role is that they supply some value proposition or value propositions. So the reason that organizations exist is their ability to deliver some value to someone, and this is the linchpin, the main central focus area. What are the value propositions from this organization? And this is common for all business models. And these value propositions are typically based on products and services. And some may think that organizations are there to create a profit. Not necessarily. For example, some social organizations and even modern organizations, is quite unclear who actually pays and when they pay and how they pay. We'll be addressing this later on in the course, but just most of you have some Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter. You don't actually pay for it. how come that it generates so much revenue? How come Google is one of the wealthiest organizations globally? Because we're not paying as such for using Google. So the answer to the first question from yesterday is organizations exist to deliver value propositions to some segments, and one of these basis for understanding a value proposition is from Osterwalder, that has his that has the business model canvas. So let's move on and have a look at Osterwalder's business model canvas. So this is the site we reached to, and this is different options from Alex Osterwalder, and he has introduced the concept of the business model canvas. The business model canvas is one of the two business models that we will be addressing. There are up to different ways of, or different academics have made business models. We will be addressing the two of them, the business model canvas, and the one following from Peter Lindgren, the business model cube. Let's dwell a few minutes on the business model canvas. I will be printing some of these business model canvases on A3 and bring them along on Monday. Essentially, Osterwalder starts out with his value proposition, and then he moves on and says this value propositions, to which customer segments are they addressing, and then he has a look at, this is a truck, which channels are used to get the value proposition to the customers, and up here, what are the customer relationships, how do they relate to the customers. So, but the basic outset is the value proposition, and then over here we have what are the key activities to deliver this value proposition. And to engage in these key activities, we need to find out which key resources do we need to have the key activities that can deliver the value proposition that through channels and customer relations gets to our customer segments. And finally, we have on the left some of our key partners. So which key partners do we have outside the organization that help us in our activities, resources, channels, and in our relations in providing the value proposition to our customer segments. And then finally, we can have a look at the financing, saying what is the cost structure of these resources, how much do the resources cost, how much do the activities cost, how much does it cost to have this, in other words, to provide the value proposition, what does it cost to have the customer relationships, and what does it cost to use these customer channels that generates some value for the customer segments, and how are we going to get these customer segments in some way to pay directly or indirectly to our cost structure, i.e. the expenses that occur in providing the value proposition. And finally, we have the revenue streams, saying how does the money flow go between the partners, activities, resources, channels, customers. Do they pay up front? Do they pay continuously? Is it down payment on the receivable? So what is the different structures that we use to pay for the expenses that we incur, or the cost that there is in providing this value proposition? That is a basic understanding of the business model canvas, and it's intuitively quite easy to use. As I said, I will bring some examples, and we'll start working with it on Monday. The second question I asked you yesterday, or in the first screencast, was have a look at an organization where you're currently employed, or where you have been employed, i.e. a company that you know well, and try and write down some issues concerning its business model. So the notes that you hopefully are sending or have sent to me already, in which way could they be put into this business model canvas by Osterwalder? And some of you may have known about Osterwalder prior, and then used it to describe the organizations, and some may just have described it as I actually wanted you to, just from the top of your head. What is your intuitive understanding of a business model? And here we have one theoretical understanding, i.e. the business model canvas by Osterwalder. So next one is, let's move on to the business model canvas. The business model cube. It is the business model canvas we have addressed. So next we will address the business model cube. So this business model cube, which is illustrated on page 156 in the article as a cube, is now developed, since the article was written, has now been developed into this board instead. And I'll be bringing some boards Monday as well, so we can have a look at it. And this is where we have the board, and should be able to see it more clearly. This is a board that we will be taking the outset in, as explained in the article, but developed not now as a cube but as a board. So as opposed to Osterwalder, this is expressed, we start here again with the value proposition, divided into products and services and their processes. Then we move on to the next one, which is customers and users. So customers and users are not necessarily the same, and from these customers and users dimension, we'll be moving on to the value chain functions, which is internal and prospectively actually a way of expressing, for example, Porter's value chain. I'll get back to that when we discuss it on Monday, but just understand the way this is an alternative way of expressing what an organization actually delivers. From the functions, we move on to have a look at I can't quite see it. I think this is the competencies. Nope. We'll move on to looking at the competence within the organization that's built up of technology, human, organizational, system, and culture. And then we move on to look at the networks, and finally the value formula decision or dimension. So how is it we're making money? The value formula, how we're making money. In each of these has this dimension with some relational dimensions. There is relational dimensions out to each of these, whether it's the value proposition, the customers, the core competencies, etc. So when reading the article, have a good understanding of it until page 143, and from 143 and onwards, don't take it too serious. This is more fluffy and more difficult to assess. If you have the main understandings as up to page 143, then all is well. So you've now had this short presentation of two business models, the business model canvas and the business model cube. Looking forward to seeing Monday. We'll be linking it to business model plans, i.e. where we put more specific information into it. Thank you.